Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are rolling along with player props in these NBA playoffs, taking a look at some Tuesday night game lines here and some props that we love inside of these. Make sure you do like and subscribe to that page. Got 3 game videos for all 3 games on tonight's slate up for you guys, as well as we will continue to do throughout these playoffs, bringing you every single playoffs game with game videos and this player props video each and every day. Also head to thelines.com. Make sure you're checking out that props tool we have available. Make sure you're shopping those lines correctly for all those NBA player props out there tonight. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight's playoff props. Nate, let's jump into it.
Yeah, I'm going to chase Chris Paul's stats because, the all-timer is going for that ring and really has been on a mission since he got healthy in the middle of the playoffs last season, or after, suffering that thumb injury early. You take it from the end of that Lakers series. He averaged 24 points per game, along with 4 rebounds, 8.5 assists. Usage rate up to 27% in 14 games. Shot 54, 50, 90. And in game 1 against this Pelicans team, we know what he did. 37 and 12, took over the game down the stretch, posted a 162 offensive rating, only missed 4 shots. We know what he does against slow-footed centers. Rudy Gobert knows it well. It might be 2 straight rounds of doing that. And with Joe Val out there all game for the Pelicans, they even started 2 centers with Jackson Hayes out there. CP3 was able to just have his way. He's dissected this NOLA defense consistently in his last 3 regular season meetings with them. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 17.3 assists per game. And NOLA allowed the 4th most assists per game to point guards in their last 15 down the stretch. As you mentioned, Devontae Graham not healthy. Jose Alvarado definitely like his spunk, but CP3 is not to be trifled with. At home this season, he didn't average a ton of points. So, his prop is 17.5 points. It's a little scary to just take the points. 28.5 points and assists, a little more appealing since he's getting minus 140 to get those 11 assists. And 33.5 PRA. Also worth a look at better odds there. I really like double-double in a win. It's close to even money at FanDuel. You could parse those picks however you want. The one concern is a blowout factor, but if it stays close, just the higher usage rate for CP3 is going to be key because, like I said, 14 points or almost 15, 11.5 assists at home on just a 19% usage rate this year. And like I said, his usage rate up to 27%. In the playoffs, the last 14. So he'll take them home if they need him to. That's why I like the combined points here with other stats. Might even consider just taking the rebounds and assists for CP3 because the Pelicans scored 99, struggled from the field, and there's going to be a lot of available rebounds there.
Right. Yeah, that's why I like the points, rebounds, and assists that you got here, 33.5. That feels great. I also would consider the 12 assists on FanDuel. If you get it up 1, you're at plus 114 at that point. 17 in his last 3 regular season games averaging. I like those rebounds, though, for him, too. I like being able to add those in there in a game where, he had 7 last game. The Pellies are struggling to shoot big time, especially from 3, where those long rebounds come out to Chris Paul and the guards out there. So I think there's a couple of different ways to have fun with Chris Paul in this one. He's going to be bringing it. He's ring chasing. He's going to be a very, very strong and consistent player prop that we look at throughout these playoffs. Moving on to a guy that I also want to continue to look at as long as his team is in the playoffs. That's Ant-Man and Edwards on the Memphis, on Minnesota there. We know what he did in game 1 there, 4-11 from 3, those 36 points. Really just it was also just when he scored. It felt like every time he Memphis was within 6 or so, he just comes out and daggers them with a 3. 24.5 points still feels pretty low. You're getting minus 105 on DK for that. I say low. I think that's probably what, as things balance out in the playoffs, he'll probably look to be averaging about 25 to 28. I do think you can expect that from Ant the rest of the way that he's playing in these playoffs to a degree. He might come back to earth a bit, but I think that's a solid prop for where he'll be at. 3.5 made threes, plus 142. there. Like I said, he made 4 last game. I think, I want to make clear, if you are shopping those lines, you can actually get Ant with a point better there, 23.5 points. You can get over that at BetMGM. Good find by you using that prop tool, Nate. I think there's plenty of reason to like Ant. Also the motivation factor. This is his style of play. He loves playing Memphis. He loves the grit and grind. I'm sure he loves all the trash talk he's getting from Dylan Brooks and company. It's just like a just cacophony of sound in the middle of the court with everyone just talking trash to each other the entire game. And these two teams, Pat Bev included, and Ant is a part of it. And that gets him going, man. And like I said, this is his style of play. It's run and gun. His individual pace, this team pace is 106. His individual pace was like 106.8. So he's contributing heavily to that very, very fast pace. He's just gone, man, in the blink of an eye. Even when they are playing in the half court, he's still getting ahead of the offense, being able to set up. As we mentioned, slow-footed Steven Adams was not able to hang around very long in that game. And so that did not help either. Ant will continue to be able to attack. If Steven Adams especially is not out there. Look, Ant got blocked like 2 or 3 times by Jaren Jackson, by the way, coming off his man to block him. And that still didn't scare him away from the rim at all, continuing to score about 13 of his points in the paint there, 14 of his points in the paint there during the game. So yeah, plenty to like with Ant, 24.5 points, even money. Really like that. And then if you want 4 threes from him, he's going to chuck up at least 10 times again. So if you think he's going to make 4 of 10, 4 of 12 threes, or then you feel good about plus 142 there on FanDuel.
Yeah, what did he say post game? He said, Coach might not love my shot, but I love every shot I take. Yeah, he is not shy. He's not gun shy at all. And I'm just interested at the value you're getting at guys to follow up these nice playoff debuts like Maxey. You understand he's 20 points below what he did in game 1. Now Ant 14 points below or 12 points below his game 1 output. I mean, he might not do the exact same thing, but he could still get close to that. He loves playing in Memphis. As he said, his last 3 at Memphis, shooting 64% from deep. So like the 3-pointer option there. Memphis. Yeah. I mean, they're going to pack it in and see if you can hit jumpers against them. And he has proven so far that he loves to. One guy who didn't perform well in the box score that I do expect to ramp up a little bit, though, is Jaren Jackson, who you mentioned playing that key role defensively. He got into foul trouble guarding Cat because, he had to switch onto him early when Steven Adams was played right off the floor. So only 24 minutes for Triple J. That's why he only got 12 points, 4 rebounds, 7 blocks, though. So looking at his 3.5 steal block prop, that is an interesting plus 125 at DK. But I like the points and rebounds over 21.5 there is minus 104 at FanDuel. He averaged 21.5 points and rebounds in his last 4 playoff games against Utah, which is a tougher matchup to score down low for sure. Cat, as good as he's been offensively, still not a defensive stopper. Minnesota allowed the 6th most points per game to centers this year. They also allowed the 5th most rebounds per game overall. And like you said, they love to push the pace. In his last 4 regular season games against Minnesota, Triple J getting 17 points and 7 rebounds, along with 12 total blocks and 4 total steals. And that's despite shooting 27% from deep. He's going to be a bigger part of the offense, I think, because Memphis is going to play a little bit more team-oriented. They're going to do a little more pick and pop, I think, exploiting this bad perimeter defense. He's going to get his opportunities to fire away. He's probably going to come down with 6 to 8 boards on the other end because suddenly he's manning the middle. If Steven Adams can't go, it might be him and Brandon Clark out there more. So I like combining the points and rebounds first and foremost before you chase those defensive stats that, hopefully he stays out of foul trouble so he can get you those first 2 and doesn't go chasing too many blocks.
Yeah, 100%. I like it's high, but it's good value at plus 125 for, him to get 4 blocks and steals combined. You mentioned the 7 blocks and the complete poster that he took from Cat, which, he had 7 blocks, so you're eventually going to get dunked on if you're going up for that many rejection attempts. I don't blame him at all, and I won't be buying that poster, by the way. I like both of those. He went 0 for 5 from 3, so you have to like him to shoot much better than that and the 4 of 13 overall in the field that he shot in this one in 24 minutes. You like that he had 13 field goal attempts, though, in just 24 minutes. If you do want to take those points and rebounds combined at 21.5, which I like these bets equally because I think the points and rebounds are a safer bet. But I do think that there's great value there on the blocks steals combination for Triple J, a man who really needs to step up in these playoffs and show that he's worth, continuing to be sort of the second or third banana on a team that has Ja on it if he wants to stick around. So let's finish it off with Joe Val, headed back to that Phoenix game that we couldn't really find too much value out of, but we do have half of our props from that game. So it seems like we found some of it. But Joe Val rebounds. That's what he does. That's the point. Joe Val rebounds, right? 25 boards in this one. That was absurd. But he does this against DeAndre Ayton, and that's why we like to continue to go against him. He's held Ayton in their last 3 head-to-head to 5, 5, and 9 rebounds, respectively. And while he's been getting in his last 4 versus Ayton, 18 boards a game, where he went 17, 17, 12, and now 25 rebounds. 13 and a half rebounds gets you plus 108 if you go over that on FanDuel for Joe Val tonight. I really like that. Or you could take the points because he's also been averaging 19 points a game in those last 4 against the young Ayton, and just really kind of owning him. And he also went like 0 for 4 from 3 in this last game, where maybe you consider him getting one more, and you'd like that to help you out with those points and rebounds, which sits at 30 and a half. So it's really, like we said, about a 17 and a half points for his total there. I think you take that with the boards, or you just take the over 13 and a half boards at plus 108, because that's your best juice right there. And you feel good about him getting those against a team that isn't really like known for being world beaters on the glass.
No, and Phoenix doesn't really try to crash the glass. They were 20th in offensive rebounds this year. And Joe Val, 4 straight years now with a 31% defensive rebounding rate or better in a game that has a 221 total and is probably going to go under as long as the pace continues. There should just be a ton of rebounding opportunities available. And he missed some point blank shots. Forget the 3-pointers. Like, he got in deep with some of those offensive rebounds and just couldn't finish. So I think there is room for him to reach close to what he was doing. Again, yeah, we don't expect him to get 40 points of rebounds again, but anywhere close to that is going to get you over this prop. Yeah, the Hawks plus 7.5 here in Miami after getting blowed out on Sunday afternoon in game 1. That total at 219, not moving too much there. 2 other games to look at, which we'll get to in this video. Minnesota plus 7 again at Memphis after winning by 13 in game 1. That total even higher. It did hit 247 in that first game, but it's at 240 or 241, depending where you find it. And I got to think we see some better D for Memphis in game 2 and look at an under there. And then the Suns minus 10 in the nightcap as they look to handle the Pelicans again. That total at 221. They only hit, I believe, 211 in game 1 there in that first one.
Yeah.
So the Hawks scored 91 in game 1. Trae Young once again baffled by this Heat defense. 8 points on 1 for 12 field goal shooting, 4 assists, 6 turnovers. Hawks as a team, 16 assists, 18 turnovers, where the Heat just in complete control, 30 assists, 15 turnovers. Kyle Lowry, his counterpart, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. So, I mean, if you have one point guard just in complete control of the offense executing and another point guard just overwhelmed because he doesn't have much help and he can get all these resources thrown at him, definitely doesn't spell good things for the Hawks. I expect Trae to bounce back. I mean, you look at what he did in the playoffs last year, 31 points per game, 9 assists, 42% from the floor. The books expect him to bounce back. He's minus 120 to get 26 points at DraftKings. But I'm not betting that. And I'm not betting on the Hawks to cover either, because without Clint Capella, with Bogey clearly hobbled, they don't have much. Those are 2 vital pieces on opposite ends of the floor, basically. Yeah. And if you can't contain the Heat down low, you're in trouble. The Heat have been rolling in terms of their 3-point offense. We saw what Duncan Robinson was able to do. And then they're somehow not able to punish Duncan on the other end. That's the key thing. Like, Duncan Robinson would have been putting up numbers all season if he wasn't one of the worst individual defenders in the league. Yeah. And Atlanta, with their limited options, they couldn't do much on the other end. And now you get this sharpshooter working along with Hero, which is exactly how they were able to knock the Bucks out 2 years ago with those 2 guys and Spoelstra running sophisticated action at that, Bam facilitating. Bam was quiet in game one. I expect him to get a little louder. But I think we expect a little regression from the Heat offense.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to shoot 50% from three again.
Yeah.
18 for 38 in game one, and they also were 52% from the field in general. I don't think the Hawks are going to get to the line 27 times either, which is how they were able to even get to 91. So, I mean, again, their team total is only around 105. It's a little scary taking the under there, but I think the pace that Miami usually plays at, it's going to be even slower now in game two. I think there's a possibility Trey struggles again, and there's no way the Hawks are scoring a lot with Trey struggling, with Bogey injured. So we like under here, 219.
Yeah.
And Miami, I don't think you really need to tease them, but I like that money line with the Heat with the under, or considering teasing that total up a little bit, along with another game to get up to 223, just in case Trey does get cooking. There's a possibility we get a little more offense, but this is a playoff game in Miami with maybe the most physical, tough, veteran-laden team. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get over 220 points.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really weary of taking any player props in this game too. We've been burned all season by the Heat because they score in a multitude of ways. Well, no, I'm sorry, not in a multitude of ways. They score from 3-point. That's where they score from. It's just who's it going to be and who's scoring from the other points on the court. I mean, when Bam and Jimmy have things like last night or in game one, they could walk into the lane and get a layup. There's nobody to stop them, right? Like it's not going to be Okongwu at this point. He's playing now 20. He played about 21 minutes. John Collins did get in there for about 25 minutes as well in that game. But, there's not much there. So I really thought we were going to get more from Bam and Jimmy. And the fact that we didn't really just shows that I think this is a series the Heat are happy to win by just smothering the Hawks' very, very limited offense with all of their injuries and guys out. And is really happy to let a guy like Duncan Robinson flourish because, like you said, he wasn't able to stay on the floor very much this season too often. And if they're going to be playing a team that has very, very limited weapons right now, with Bogey hurt, John Collins still coming back from injury, Capella out, there's not much there now, right? Maybe they could use Cam Reddish. I bet he would be instant offense. But regardless, they don't have anybody right now like that on that wing to score. And if Trey is going to get shut down the way he did, he's not going to, not to the tune of 8 points. That's not going to last. I still, the thing is there's so many, even like the reason you fear an under in this game is because of what you said. Trey goes for 42 and 13. Right, assists, and you're kind of like, well, shoot, that now the Hawks get over their 105 team total, maybe they score 112 or whatever, and that over is probably going to hit at that point. But even if Trey does go off like that, and you would need 27 free throws last game. That's huge. That's not happening again. I mean, the 12 of those free throws came from a combo of Danilo and Bogey. And those guys combined to average, I believe, 4.5 free throw attempts a game. Excuse me. Yeah, 4 free throw attempts a game on the season. So they got 12 combined in that one. They both hit all 6 of them, all 6 of their free throws each. And so, yeah, that's 12 points right there. And they still, only got to 91 points in that game. So it's not like there was a ton of sort of uncontested shots or, Atlanta was just missing. I mean, Atlanta, if anything, Atlanta had the opportunity off of the 15 turnovers that the Heat posted. That was a prime opportunity, right, for getting points in transition, getting points off a fast break. There was nobody there to do it. And really the Heat, they get back in transition so well, despite being a team that turns the ball over so much. There's nothing here that feels like an outlet. Like there's a stealing razor, right, for the Hawks that we didn't see in game one. There's nothing coming in. If anything, Tyler Hero played like crap. I mean, he shot 3 for 11. He was 0 for 4 from 3. He wasn't really forcing it. I mean, he had 5 assists and 5 boards. He's playing within the offense, but he had 6 points. And he's about to be 6th man of the year, averaging 20 a game. And so, you look at that. Max Strus didn't really shoot well. There's still so many options for this Heat team that could come in and overtake the Hawks. That I would say the top 8 players for the Heat right now, who are all getting minutes, are as good as everybody except for Trae Young on the floor for the Hawks right now, which is just tough for them. And so, there's not much hope. There's a reason that it's minus 750 now for the Heat to win the series. Nothing really doing there. I don't really know if the only reason I would consider the Hawks in 5, which I get, excuse me, I'm sorry, the Heat in 5, makes basically saying the Hawks will win a game, which does get you close to plus 200 on your money, or plus 175 or so. The only reason I would consider it is a Trae Young game that they just steal in Atlanta, with him just going absolutely bananas. A couple guys coming in with him and following along and getting 20 plus points in the form of Danilo. Maybe there's a weird Delon Wright game, etc. That's what it's going to take. So the money isn't really even there for them to win a game, especially if Clint Capella doesn't see the floor at all in this series.
Yeah, it's interesting. The sweep is like plus 400, and the Heat to win in 6 also plus 400. And I think there's a possibility that I think Atlanta could surprise, maybe win both games at home, or force a game 6 at some point. I mean, they're not buried yet, but it doesn't look good. It certainly doesn't look good offensively for them. They're going to need to find ways to string together stops, because they're a team that depends on 3, and Miami gave up a huge percentage of their points off threes, but down the stretch, you put in the numbers after the Jimmy Butler blow up with Spoelstra, and down the stretch, Miami was the second best 3-point defense, holding teams to 31.5% while winning 6 of their last 7.
Yeah, and that only loss was to Orlando last game of the season that they didn't care about. So
exactly, and they had one where they just dominated the Hawks in that span. Allowing 107 points per game. Their offense, you mentioned Max Strus, kind of unlocking that offense in terms of being able to spread the floor the way Duncan Robinson did, but offer a little more versatility, and as a much better defender, helping them contain on the other end what Gallo will do, keeping them off the free throw line. The Heat allowed just 20 free throw attempts per game in their last 5 there. So, I agree with you. They're not going to let that happen again. I'm not looking at props either. I think the Heat are too balanced. It's too unpredictable to take definitely their stars, who don't play like stars. Like you said, they play like elite role players, Bam and Jimmy. But I would be interested in some turnover numbers in terms of Trae, who's averaging 7 turnovers per game against Miami this year.
Yeah.
Getting plus 110 for him to get 5 turnovers.
Let's go.
And, he had 6 in game 1. Definitely possible. Even if he scores a lot, I think he's going to be forced into some bad situations. And then the other side, I mentioned Lowry had 0 turnovers. He is a playoff veteran, and you're getting plus 140 for him to commit just 1 or fewer turnovers in this game, a game at home that Miami should control throughout. He's being guarded by Trae Young, who has a terrible individual defensive rating, isn't going to force much, and the Hawks as a team don't force many turnovers, especially on the road, where they're just no good. So, I mean, if you're taking something on the spread here, it should be Miami to just run it back from game 1. I'd be a little uncomfortable with that, though, just because Atlanta is a team that's tough to doubt. And that they should show some pride and not lose by – they're definitely not going to be down by 30 in the third quarter again. So you might sweat that one out if you take it. Maybe you want to tease it down, like we said, but we like the under. So if you tease it down, take that under at 223 along with the Heat around 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that this game is that high, to be honest. I think it should be much closer to 215, and I might still take an under. I'm not lying. 217.5 at one point, too, was what this was at. So it got bet up a bit, which is fine by me. I agree with you not taking, too many props here. I like the turnovers, because if you want to bet on player props without going on unders, you're playing you're betting defensive props here. Now you're talking about turnovers. I like that. The other thing I do like too is sort of playing off of the game theory that Bam and Jimmy are facilitators. I wouldn't even necessarily call them superstars playing like quality role players. I would more call them superstars just playing like Chris Paul and Phoenix, where you're perfectly happy to score if you're needed, if you need to. But if you don't need to, you have such a deep quality squad of offensive players around you. Why not just facilitate, right? And so that the two of them combined for 9 assists in this last game. And Bam is really what I would eye, just because I love this plus money that you get for him to get on the assist for him, where I just had it, 3.5. So if he gets 4 assists, you're talking plus 110 on your money. I just told you he just got 5 in this last game. He's been playing point center for a while now. So I think as soon as we have a break here in this pod, I'm actually going to hit that. I wish I had seen it earlier. That's where I'm at for sure. Is the Bam assist. I think he'll continue to facilitate and not really ever need to get over 15 points or so. So plenty to like in this game with the Heat winning. Not very many points with the Heat playing defense the way they do, and definitely coming back to earth from 47% from three. You just can't do that 2 games in a row. Although I will say in those last 6 games that they won to end the season, they were also shooting 47% as a team from three, making 17 threes a game. Basically what we saw last night, 17 for 37 versus 18 for 38 last night. This team is at a true shooting of 66% as a team. Tough to really pick against them. Maybe you consider it an over for their team total, but still really like the under on this game just with the way they're D'ing up. So back in Memphis for game 2, saw what do we see in this last game? 247 points combined, a 13-point victory for the Timberwolves. We talked about the fear of taking Memphis in game 1 with the line or even the money line, to be honest, just because the Wolves without rest equal better than with rest, which actually equals rust for them. So yeah, as that young team, fresh legs, huge games from Ant, Cat, and Malik Beasley as well, I should throw in there. The series price, Nate, down to minus 130 for Memphis to win this one, plus 105 for Minnesota to win this one. What are you thinking, either whether it's series price or even just game 2? How are you feeling about this one?
I don't want to take the series price yet. I mean, I would still back Memphis, but Minnesota, very impressive. As you mentioned, riding the wave of that short rest, and Cat kind of the worst behind him now, playing freely and aggressively. The key there was just playing Steven Adams right off the floor, kind of a worst case scenario for Memphis, because there goes their whole defensive stopper down there. Now you got to rotate Jaren Jackson to the 5. And he did not, and then he got into foul trouble trying to deal with Cat. And then we know what Anthony Edwards did. I think Memphis, you hit it. I mean, the rust was our biggest concern going into game 1, that they hadn't played a meaningful game in 19 days or so, since March ended. That they hadn't played with Ja Morant more than once in a full month since the middle of March. Yep. And Ja looked great. He looked a little reckless, which led to great points and him hitting the props as we had in our video. But I got to think that they're going to try to slow it down a little bit more, try to pump the brakes a little bit in terms of him not just wrecking himself, because he took a lot of hard falls there, going like 1-on-3. Yeah. And look, I mean, they got to win this game, but they had eyes on a conference finals run at least, and they need him right for the long run. So, I mean, I like the under here a lot. I mean, I don't know how many units I would bet, because they are scary good offenses. And like you said, they had 247 in that game. But, I mean, this is still the playoffs, and we're talking 240 in 5 playoff games last year against the Jazz at the height of their powers. The Grizz only averaged 238, still did not get there. They went under in their last 2 against Minnesota in the regular season, including a 116-108 win at home the last time. So that's way under here. And for me, the key is how Memphis bounces back. I mean, there's numbers to support it here. They're 13-11-2 to the under after a loss this season. That is their highest under rate. And in their last 7 losses, they've allowed, after their last 7 losses, they've allowed just 111 points per game, not the 130 that they gave up to the Wolves last time out. I mean, Dylan Brooks got to do a better job on Anthony Edwards. I don't know if he will completely stop him, but I think just the change in pace here. Certain things that Memphis did well all regular season, they didn't do, because exactly what we thought. The rust, not just from a standpoint of like where are their rotations at, where are their X's and O's, but just from an intensity standpoint, it just wasn't there. They got out rebounded by 11. This is the second best rebounding team at home all season. Had the 7th best defensive rating at home at 107, and they were the 6th best team guarding the 3-point line. And they gave up 16 threes at nearly 40% in game 1. You mentioned like letting Malik Beasley shoot. He's a one-dimensional player. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, if you run him off the line, he's not going to beat you. It's tough to deal with those 2 guys in terms of Ant and Cat. But the rest of the Wolves offense, they should be able to make some adjustments and hold them in check. And I don't really see Memphis continuing their incredible offensive run to end the regular season, where they had a 120 offensive rating at home down the stretch, hit 120 plus points in 8 of their last 9 home games. because again, this is the playoffs. They averaged 115 in that Jazz series last year. I think both teams will finish under 120. I think you're still getting great value for Minnesota to cover here because, frankly, they could win another game, and +7 along with that under. I don't know if you want to parlay them together or bet them separately because, honestly, if Minnesota has it cooking again, we could see an over. But I think I trust Memphis to even this series and do it with their defense.
And it's funny because I feel like in the betting world, especially in the NBA, betting unders is somehow seen as like the smart like guy thing to do. Is you bet an under and you're being slick here, like you're somehow being. But like I don't know, the over in this game at 241. I mean, I wasn't scared of it at 233. I don't know if I'm scared of it at 241 either, to be honest. I'm scared of hitting an under, to be honest, in this one. And there's a couple of things here. Like, look, once again, there's sort of a mean that we can work with. We know what the Timberwolves are on offense, and we know what they're not on defense. We know how they play. 36 points from Ant in game one does feel a bit like, young guy coming out in his first real playoff game. And he's a guy who just goes bananas, turns the lights out and just goes and is a better athlete and was unreal from three. Cat played really well. He played really smart. He played within himself a lot more than he did in that other game where he was just forcing everything. And he knew that he had the matchups, right? And there was no Ty Lue bringing those crafty, small forward guarding Cat and then center standing behind him kind of scenarios that like we said, Ty Lue put in there. The reason that like I think, regressing back to the mean for Anthony Edwards and Malik Beasley seems like what's going to happen here in game two, right? Malik Beasley, he like you said, 10 of his 14 field goal attempts are from three. He hit 4 of them, which is good enough for them to get those extra 12 from him. And 4 of 11 from three, but he also was 8 of 8 from the free throw line because he was attacking. I don't know that we'll see 36 from him again, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets to 30 or at least over 25 in this one. As Bill mentioned in player props, I think you keep riding his wave, to be honest. Cat feel confident about 2. The reason I'm scared to take it under 2 is D'Lo going for 10 points, only 2 for 11 from the field, and he took plenty of shots. He was diming as well as he sort of turned into that facilitator. But I mean, 2 of 11, a lot of those shots were decent shots, and he just wasn't hitting. So you add a few more points there. You take a few points here, you add a few points there. I think it's going to be close to 240, to be honest. To the stat that you brought up about the way they played in their first 5 playoff games against the Jazz last year, averaging 238 a game. Look, this game was played at a pace of 106. That's absurd, right? That's the fastest I've seen a playoff game stat. Definitely faster than any game last playoffs. So I think that has to also come down a bit. And mostly I think it's because that's what Memphis is realizing. Like you said, I really love the under numbers for Memphis. Like I said, I'm not personally going to bet on this total. I do think there's more value on Minnesota covering because that 7 points is unfair right now. I mean, they just won by 13, and Memphis, like you said, the rust was a problem, but also you can't continue the same style of play, like you said, especially for Ja. Granted, he got 20 free throw attempts that helped them out a ton and really kept them in the game up until it just got blown out in the last 5-6 minutes. But you can't continue to do that and rely on that. One, he's going to get hurt, and 2, right? Like it's not conducive when the other team is coming down, playing at a much faster pace with a bunch more guys getting involved in the offense. Ja was doing a lot of one-on-one. Most of his field goals were unassisted, per usual for him, but you would like to see him distributing a bit more. Granted, I mean, 8 assists is great for him, but it was a ton of getting other guys involved and letting them play without him necessarily. I didn't love the fact that he was so ball dominant. I think what they're realizing is things need to change a bit in terms of that pace for them to win this game with Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota had 18 turnovers. Memphis averages, the most points per game off of turnovers and in fast break, all of that stuff. And they weren't able to do jack squat with it, because of the fact that I think it was a lot of Minnesota coming down, hitting threes. That's worth more than 2. And that's not what Memphis was doing in this game, was swinging the ball and getting open threes in any way. I think that's a lot more what they need, which slows down the possessions a bit because you got to get the offense going, pass the ball around a bit more. So I think that pace goes down a bit, which does lead you to feel better about an under. But I also think that Minnesota is going to assert their will enough to keep this thing under 8 points.
They got to slow it down. I mean, yeah, they're a young team that's how they played all season. And they've been their blueprint for success. But in this particular matchup, they have to slow it down because Minnesota wants to go fast. They're playing into their hands if you're going back and forth like that. And yeah, Memphis has to find their stride. This is what we talk about with young guys learning how to win in the playoffs. You can't play the exact same way. Like you gotta execute in the half court. You got to do what they were doing when Ja was out. It's exactly what you're saying, which is distribute, move the ball, work as a team, and don't just go one-on-one because, you're just trying to push the pace like Ja was doing. I'm sure they're going to be going over that in team meetings, and the game plan will involve a little more execution. And the Wolves defense is really bad. Like we're overlooking it because they've been able to pull out these last two games here and because their offense just erupted. But they gave up the most free throws per game. It is sort of sustainable, maybe not for Ja to shoot 20 on his own, but for Memphis to do a parade to the line here, if they're just patient and rotate the ball and they'll get their opportunities, they'll get their paint points. They could get Cat into foul trouble, which would be huge. As we saw in the playing game, I don't think they're going to get saved by D'Angelo Russell. I think the 10 points from him is more indicative of how he has trouble in this matchup, and Ant does not. So we'll like his player props again for sure. But D'Lo, I don't necessarily expect a huge bounce back in that to get us over. And the more I think about it, if there's a correlation, I'm saying I'm scared Minnesota wins and we go over, then I like Memphis to win and we go under, which changes that money line, which is at stupid bad value, but it at least would shift that money line to plus 150 for Memphis as they are in a back to the wall situation here. And we always talk about the wins and losses numbers for teams. Minnesota, it's crazy. In wins, they score 122. In losses, they score just under 108. And their offensive rating drops to 108. So, if they don't win this game, I think we definitely go under. And it's because, those three guys are not cooking the way they were in game one.
You sold me. Your game theory sold me. To the under anyway. I might be a bit of a softie. I got a bunch of units on series market, so I'm not necessarily trying to splash here in a couple of these games. Personally, I just think, the money for NBA playoffs. I love player props. It's so fun. And I think it's more predictable in the playoffs, but I also know that the value of making money while you're betting is on betting those futures in the series markets. So either way, I think that's why I feel okay saying I'm going to be a scaredy cat and I'm going to tease this one so I can get the under at about 244.5. And I can get Memphis to win by 2.5, right? And that way I can get that. I'm fine with a parlay as well. I'm a little bit more scaredy of the under than you are, but I still believe in it the way that you do and everything that you're throwing out there. So I would consider the parlay, like you said, plus 159 on DraftKings right now is great for a Memphis money line under 240.5 bet. I think that's a great market for those two bets as well. So consider it. Headed to Phoenix, game 2. Not the game that I'll be most tuned into tonight. I think we kind of know what's going on with this series. I hate to use the cliche Suns in 4, but it does kind of feel that way, as Suns bro will probably agree. I don't know. There wasn't much to take away. My opinion on this one was kind of similar to the way I viewed Jimmy and Bam in that Heat Atlanta series, which is Booker, Chris Paul, the boys, they're kind of taking it easy on offense. They're not trying to run and gun. They're not trying to get anybody hurt. They're trying to get good shots, and they're just trying to stop the other team on defense and get boards. They actually got out rebounded a bit, definitely helped by Joe Val, as we'll talk about, going bananas on the boards. But I don't know. This is at another 10-point spread or so, another total right around 221.5. I think we need to find ways to bet this game to feel good about it. What are you looking at here, and how creative do we need to get?
Well, they don't even have a market up for the sweep anymore at FanDuel. The Suns are minus 125 or minus 260 to win by in 5 games or fewer. This series is a wrap. The Pelicans, it's pretty known that we don't really like them, and we thought, in terms of betting on them, and we thought they definitely got lucky in this with the play and draw, and then with Paul George suddenly ruled out, and it showed in game 1. They couldn't do anything really on either ends of the floor. Like we said, with the Clippers being able to contain their only 2 options. Brandon Ingram actually had a great game because Paul George was out. But in game 1, those guys shoot 35% from the floor against Mikal Bridges and company. the Suns just so good in terms of game planning for, especially when you're limited in what you can do, right? And we know the Pelicans are the second worst 3-point shooting team. The Suns inviting them to shoot threes, and sure enough, they go 9 for 23 from deep. That's a recipe that will continue. The Suns limit 2-pointers. They limit shots at the rim. And the one thing you could say in the Pelicans' favor is that huge rebounding advantage, 55 to 35, with Joe Val getting a franchise playoff record, 25 rebounds, yet he's still a minus 11 in his minutes. And so was Jackson Hayes, who they decided to start. You're going to go big against Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and you're going to get punished. And Chris Paul, as we saw, just took over the game. 12 for 16 from the field, 30 points, 10 assists for a 162 offensive rating. It's his time, right? It's yeah, kid. And the Suns are going to go maybe faux is what they're thinking. No, I mean they're going to have more trouble in the next series, I'm sure, but not in this one. No. And they've been on a mission all year, obviously based on losing 4 straight to lose the finals. Yeah. Chris Paul leading this team. They've just been so efficient on both ends of the floor. I don't see any lapse here. In fact, I see positive regression for the Suns in terms of their offense and pulling away. I think you like an under with the way the Pelicans have been playing, so slow pace, but I'm a little scared of the Suns just exploding offensively because they're just so much better than this team in every facet. So I would actually lean towards the NOLA team under, which, and I know it's only 105.5, but I would still go under that. They scored 99 in game 1. And I don't think there's many options other than CJ and Ingram. And they're not going to be able to cook against this team. Not the way the Suns play defense. And yeah, I mean, you look at the Suns at home last year in the playoffs, they covered in 7 of 10. They allowed just 105.5 points per game, exactly where we're at. Pace down to 94.3. New Orleans will also play at that pace as they try to rest those only 2 options. But like I said, Suns offense, scary good, 122 offensive rating on the other side, scoring about 10 more points per game than the opposition. Yeah. So spreads at 10 points. I think that continues, and they cover.
Yeah, that all adds up to me. I think, the Suns are going to come out scoring. I mean, look, they had 53 in the first half, but they didn't really, I guess, put this one away just because of the fact that, they let the Pellies back in the third quarter. And I think that they want to step on their neck, to be honest, because I don't think Chris Paul wanted to have to score 19 points in the fourth quarter to put this one away. That sucked because the whole game plan was working up until that third quarter where they got outscored by 11 points and just let them back into the game. I think it was like a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They really needed to be up by 15 already so that Chris Paul could play no more than 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. But instead he had to play about 9 and keep them ahead in this game. They were rolling, and part of that is on defense. I mean, that's the biggest part of it, right? They did fine on offense the entire game, really. Book had his 25, Aiden had 21. They were efficient all over the floor and getting the shots they wanted. So I do think that they can continue that sort of that offensive efficiency. It's just, are they going to, I think to your point of that 94 pace, I think that's going to continue. And I don't think it's going to get any faster. I don't think they need to have it get any faster. They own the half court on both sides of the floor. And the Pellies, their half court offense right now is because of that lack of 3-point shooting is really bad, man. I mean, there's nothing else to it. They don't have 3-point shooters around CJ and Brandon Ingram the way that they need, not with Larry Nance getting time at this point. They had to play Trey Murphy too much. Devontae Graham seems like he's still hurt. I mean, he only played 10 minutes, and that's obviously the 3-point shooting that they really need. They need Herb Jones on there. Crazy to say, they need their rookie guard out there so that they can continue that defensive effort to at least hold Book to 25 points because he wasn't great from the field, but he got his. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, 8 for 19, still 4 for 8 from 3 was really what saved his efficiencies for the day, and his true shooting stayed really nice. So yeah, I mean, look, there's too much Phoenix right now. There's nothing that gives me any hope for New Orleans to be able to score, and that's why I continue to like, maybe not their under on the team total. I mean, you would have to think they're more likely to go under on their team total, but I also do think while you might be scared of an explosion from Phoenix, I think the only explosion to be had is that they're just going to continue to be super efficient. I think if anything, you might consider a first half over for them. And then they kind of like continue to sort of like slow that pace down and make sure that they win the third quarter, or at least keep it even in the third quarter to maintain a 12 to 15 point lead going into the fourth. I think that's got to be the discussions that Monty Williams and team are having. There's no need to go crazy and start running and gunning either when you're playing Devin Booker and Chris Paul, a combined 78 minutes in this game or so. You don't want to start running and gunning if you're going to play them that much. It means you want them in there and you need them to be rested while they are, because this series should be a sweep and they need plenty of energy for this next round. It's going to be a decent matchup, either a Luka led Dallas team that he'll be back for that, or a Utah team that maybe you're scared of Donnie Mitchell. Either way, they're going to be faced with a tougher challenge in round two.
Yeah, you want rest, but yeah, it's also about executing against these sort of flawed lineups that the Pelicans are throwing out there in terms of, like I said, you're going to start two centers against this team, or you're going to have two rooks out there in Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. As good as they are defensively, I think Chris Paul still showed his IQ dissecting them when he had to. And really, the more film you get, the more Chris Paul is going to burn you. And against Willie Green's Pelicans, it has been a clinic. I believe he has 17.3 assists per game his last three regular season meetings against the Pelicans. He's getting minus 140 to have 11 dimes tonight. Yeah, and if you do get into clutch with the Suns, yeah, it's over. But the player performance double for CP3 double is minus 115. It's never a better time to use that hack on the money line here. I mean, the Suns 32-9 straight up at home, but only 19-22 against the spread this season. Yeah. So, I mean, there is a chance, CJ and Ingram get it going a little bit despite the tough matchup and keep it under 10 points here. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think if you want to hedge your bets and say the Suns are going to win this game, maybe not by 10 points, that's a great way to get some juice there. Yeah. But yeah, I just trust CP3, and I think Booker, like you said, he still has room to go up after shooting 8 for 19 from the field. Still at a 127 offensive rating, but the Pelicans don't have many answers for him. Nobody really does, and if CP3 wants to take a back seat, he will gladly take it over, and he doesn't need rest. He's a young buck. I mean, he's going to be fine to carry them right through this first round.
Man, yeah, where's the value in this game, dude? Like, even looking at these player performance doubles, I mean, I guess the reason I don't find the value is just because there's also the blowout factor and the fact that you could see, a lot more time for Cam Johnson, Cam Payne. Maybe you see a bit more JaVale. I mean, there was some pretty even distribution of minutes outside of, McHale, Ayton, Booker, and Paul. And then in that fourth spot, they really rotated between, Crowder. You got Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, and JaVale coming in. So I think they continue that. I don't think there's any need to continue to rush these guys out there and really try to blow out the doors off of the Pelicans, who already aren't shooting the ball well enough to be able to hang it all with this team. Like we said, 7 for 23 from three. And I think that level of inefficiency from deep continues for a team that does not have 3-point shooters, especially when Ingram and CJ need the ball in their hands. And that means a lot more pull-up threes instead of catch and shoot, et cetera. So, just Suns to win, and if you can find a way to get some value on that, go ahead. I'm not terrified of the spread, but I think the Pellies do have a little bit better of a showing than they did last game, which was just one of the worst offensive outputs that they've had in a while. So that is all the time we have for you on a super fun Tuesday night slate. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to check out all these videos with us, including that player props video we have for you today. And until we see you next, happy betting.